please share your thoughts in comments and like this video. The story begins when Kujou Kyouya is summoned to some desolate another world. He is completely baffled because he doesn't know anything about his whereabouts. Suddenly a lady approaches him and calls him hero. She tells him that she has been waiting for him. She seems to him as a female version of the devil. The lady mocks him and challenges him to kill her. In this way, the tale of a unique and peerless reincarnated hero, who failed to save the world, begins. The scene shifts and Kujou finds himself wearing a uniform and attending some sort of an academy. Kujou is getting self-conscious as he asks himself whether he is looking weird. He observes other students and thinks that everyone appears like a freshman, so he doesn't want to stand out in any way. Suddenly a voice rings around him telling him to check out those newbie heroes. Kujou is completely baffled when he turns around and finds out that the voice actually came from a cat. The talking cat comes out of Kujou's bag and looks around in amazement. However, Kujou got furious and asks Felice, the cat, to get back into the bag. The big-mouthed feline yells at him telling him he shouldn't treat her this way as it's really dull inside the bag. However, Kujou grabs Felice and forces her to get back because he is worried that the surrounding people will find him bizarre. The cat sarcastically points out that Kujou is always worried about what people would say. She wonders if he belongs to a specific kind of human known as introverts. Kujou doesn't blame himself as he feels that he cannot help himself as he hasn't interacted with anyone for so long apart from Felice. Felice retorts that Kujou has only been to that isolated place for 3 years and he is just exaggerating. Kujou countered that was the time passed in real world and not the world where they lived. Kujou orders Felice to stay. However, the cat smartly points out that she is a cat and cannot understand him. By saying this, Felice jumps off the bag, but Kujou grabs her instantly and warns her not to run away. Meanwhile, the tussle between the two parties is going on. A young student notices Felice and leads out a deafening shriek. She immediately approaches Kujou asking him whether the cat belongs to him. The girl coos at how cute Felice is. Kujou agitatedly ponders that they got caught so easily. He asks the student whether she is a returnee too. The girl affirms and introduces herself as Imari Komari and that she is a freshman. Imari fondles her pockets and schemes through her bag to find her invitation. However, she gets restless and frantically begins to search for it. When Kujou tells her to relax, after a frenzied search, Imari manages to find her invitation and shows it to Kujou. Kujou thinks that Imari got the same invitation as him. Suddenly the majestic tower clock begins to ring and Imari informs Kujou that the entrance ceremony is about to begin. She hurries inside and asks Kujou to come along as well. Meanwhile, Felice comments Imari is an interesting lass. Kujou furiously questions Felice why she was laughing like that. He warns Felice that she must never let her guard down, because if Felice's identity is revealed, then it would be the end of them. Felice leads out a sign and affirms. After a while, the 13th entrance ceremony of Eugratia Academy begins. The ceremony is addressed by the Prime Minister, who tells the students that this school is an educational institution established jointly by the goddess and the Japanese government. He terms the academy as a bridge for communication between human beings and the goddess. Kujou surprisingly spots other VIPs sitting in a separate row. Kujou comments that this is a hero academy and it's on a completely different level. However, Felice tells him not to jump to conclusions and must check out his surroundings. Kujou is astonished to find students stretching themselves, using mobile phones, and having bored expressions on their faces. He thinks that the students are really taking it easy in this academy. The Prime Minister continues and refers to the students as heroes who have saved the many other worlds that exist and have returned back. He lauds them that their government is really proud of all of them. Felice remarks that every returning student in this academy is capable of bringing down a king to his knees. She calls them cheeky brats because to them the government is a useless organization lying on the side doing nothing. Suddenly a lady comes on the podium and politely asks the Prime Minister to cut down his speech as she points out to him that no one is actually listening to him. The Prime Minister sheepishly agrees and decides to wrap up. The lady then takes over the podium and introduces herself as Minaho Kazuha. She welcomes the students and says that she is an executive officer of this academy. Minaho gives them full information about the school and brags that since the students have seen many big shots coming up in this school, so they might have grabbed the idea of what the school is all about. She explains that this is a quarantine facility for all of them. She refers to each one of them as a hero with the power to save another world. Minaho calls them nuclear bombs considering the dangers. She says that if something happens and they snap, then everyone will be in hot waters. For that reason, the country cannot let them run wild, but they won't be forcibly locked in this place. a goddess could be seen watching over the podium, and Manhwa tells the students that they can return to their daily lives on the condition that their memories and abilities are sealed. However, she knows that some students over here won't like the idea because they don't want to lose the powers they have gained. Manhwa then tells them about the deal the academy offers. Firstly, she tries to create a dramatic environment. But due to the students' annoyance, she decides to come to the point. She snaps her fingers, and to the students' surprise, many devilish creatures begin to ooze out from the ceiling. However, Felice remarks that things are getting interesting. Soon there is chaos everywhere as people begin to run here and there on the sight of monsters. Kujou comments that they all must evacuate. However, the heroes grab their weapons and begin to charge at those monsters, calling them weaklings. The hero bravely fight off those devilish creatures, and in no time they manage to gather a mound of monster corpses. Kujou is completely stunned and wonders if this is the actual Returners' power. Manhwa lauds their efforts and comments that this year's freshmen are all energetic and prepped up. Kujou asks her if she was testing them. Manhwa replies that she only provided them with some toys to play with. Manhwa is certain that they all had fun, since it's been a while since they all used their strengths to kill something. She explains that this is the deal that is offered by the academy, as well as the demand. In short, they want all of them to save the world again. Manhwa narrates that this whole world is branched off from a large tree called the World Tree, and it bears countless other world fruits. Many of those worlds are in trouble because they are being eaten by demons. They need them to go out there and exterminate those pests. Manhwa personally doesn't care about other worlds. However, in the past there was a world that was completely destroyed by a demon lord. The power and viciousness of that demon lord also devastated other worlds. By the time the goddesses realized what was happening, the demon lord had already swallowed thousands of worlds. In the end, the goddesses sealed away the demon lord along with his world. When Manhwa is narrating this, a grim expression can be noticed on Felice's face. Manhwa dramatically says that now they are referred to as the lost demon of the lost world. Even Kujou has a grave expression on his face when Manhwa states that it's their task to go around and nip such a bad thing in the bud before it grows up. Manhwa considers this academy as a company that dispatches heroes. She then comes to the point of ability measurement. Manhwa then calls out 13 names, and Imari's and Kujou names are among those. Kujou, baffled when his name is called out, Manhwa asks those 13 people to follow her and asks the rest of the students to follow the staff members' instructions and do their best with their ability measurement. Felice teases Kujou that he might have done something. However, poor Kujou defends himself and says that he only attended the ceremony. Manhwa tells them that they don't have to take the test and they must head back to their dormitories. One of the 13 students asks Manhwa why they are being treated differently. Manhwa chuckles and shows them a strange mark on her arm. She explains that the mark is called Savior Crest, and it is given by the goddess as proof of saving the world. She then questions the selected lot and whether any of them has that particular mark. However, Manhwa replies that of course not all of them were reported as clearers. Either they didn't defeat the demon lord and were deported, or they were summoned along with several others but didn't fight solo. Manhwa calls all of them failures. She mocks them further and calls them dropout heroes, and the lowest of the low, the losers. But Manhwa assures them that if they work hard they might get promoted. One of the students lashes out at Manhwa for calling him a dropout student and underestimating his powers. Manhwa turns over and gives away her sweetest smile and refers to that young man as Kashima Takerukin and remarks sarcastically that it's really okay to be brash and vigorous. But why didn't he show the same brashness in front of the demon lord? Kashima calls rude names to Manhwa, when Imari prevents him from being so harsh. But Kashima strikes her hard and Imari falls to the ground. So when Kujou tries to give Kashima a piece of his mind, the latter bellows at him and scares the wit out of him. Kashima then reprimands Manhwa for putting him on the same level as trash, like Imari and Kujou, and informs her that he was summoned to a stage 5 world. He explains that he was so close to clearing it but a little recklessness from his side made him a failure. However, nobody could beat his power. Kishimo asks Manhwa that he could give her a power show by turning all these garbages into cinders. Even Kujou is startled that Kishimo can use hellfire magic in a place like this. However, Manhwa isn't impressed and says Kishimo must stop all that flashy magic. However, Kishimo haughtily roars that it is too late begging for their lives. Suddenly there is a swift swipe of the sword, and a black-haired girl places her sword on Kishimo, next saying that rule violation is point deduction. However, Manhwa tries to calm down Rei, the swordswoman, and says that they haven't even grouped them yet. Rei feels that Manhwa is too lenient with the students. Manhwa explains to Kishimo that what matters is that he failed to save the world. and that all his excuses are useless and futile. Manhwa calls all of them failures who don't even qualify to become saviors. Manhwa instructs them to return to their dorms. She teased them to think of a funny greeting in tomorrow class. Kashima cursed as they left. Kujou pondered about calling him a dropout hero who failed to defeat the demon lord. He accepted that nickname as they were not wrong. While walking down the passageway, Manhwa complimented Rei on her nice timing as always. Rei tells Manhwa that just like always, that she stirred those dropouts knowing it will end that way. Manhwa reasons that for those types it's better to put them in their places through force. But this time, Rei is really bothered about something. While attacking Kishimo earlier, she felt that the magic circle felt it was already hollow. Manhwa explains that the spell has already been neutralized. Moreover, only the firepower was neatly erased and she doesn't know who actually did it. Rei reprimands Manhwa that even with her eyes that specialize in detecting one's abilities, she wasn't able to find out. Manhwa defends that her special eyes cannot detect abilities masked by special forces. However, all Manhwa cares is that the strong candidates are on their side. Meanwhile, Kujou enters his dorm room, which is pretty decently furnished. Kujou liked that room since it was way better than the hero's dorm in another world, so he felt more at home there. Felice jumped out from the bag and exclaimed what an interesting academy it was. Felice tells him that back then it was quite obvious, and Kujou agrees with her. Felice comments that Rei and Manhwa might have noticed that it was actually Kujou who had neutralized Kishima's magic circle. Kujou explains that he got a little impatient. Felice points out that he still lacks training. Felice teased him as it couldn't be helped since he is a dropout hero. Kujou apologizes to Felice for bringing her to a place like this, as this might be like an enemy stronghold to her, but he wasn't anticipating this situation. He expected that they would return to his original world and would live a peaceful life. Felice knew that if her real identity was found out by them, she would have a worse fate than death, but she is assured that Kujou will protect her no matter what. Felice then teases him for becoming a man, and earlier he was nothing but a smelly little boy. To his alarm, Felice returns to her devilish form and tries to seduce him. Kujou was shocked to see Felice returning to her devil form. He inquired about that as he knew that Felice hadn't regained his strength yet. Felice replies that she had a tiny bit of strength back and she used it to transform. But she mentioned that she wouldn't be able to use magic in that state. She would also be unable to maintain that form for long. She teased Kujou why he was holding back, when he caressed her whole body when she was a cat. Kujou argues that it was because she was cat at that time. He tells her to cover up quickly. Felice teases Kujou for chickening out. However, Felice is thankful to Kujou, as her life was supposed to be abandoned in that world forever, but now she is able to see a new day, all because of Kujou's kindness. Felice then introduces herself as the one who is feared by everyone and called the Lost Demon. And if she hadn't liked Kujou, would have eaten him from the head long ago. Kujou also agreed on that. She reminds him of the time he was lying in that world 3 years ago. It was only 3 years in the real world, but in that world, it was 30,000 years ago. He got summoned to desolate another world where he met her. He remembers how he met her and fought her. In that desolate land, a flashback is shown when Kujou lands in the lonely world. He is found by Felice, who challenges him to kill her. Kujou was confused at that time. Felice assumes that Kujou still doesn't know where he landed, so she proposed to act as a guide. She proposed to talk while they gaze at the lost world. Kujou then inquired about the devil girl's identity. Felice introduces herself with her full name and asked Kujou to call her Felice. Kujou looks around and the whole place is treeless, barren, and some random skeletons are lying around on the ground. He came to conclusion that it must be another world. She explains that this world is quite different from his world. The place is usually termed as the Lost World by the goddesses. Kujou felt that it was such a terrible name. Felice laughs and agreed that indeed it was. Felice explains that this is the place where everything has come to an end, and it's nothing but a vast wasteland. Felice tells him that the world became like this because of her. She swiped off all the men, beasts, demons, etc. She mentioned that she did that because she was Demon Lord. Kujou shuddered when he heard it. Kujou asks her why she summoned someone like him. Felice reasons that she wants Kujou to kill her. She wanted to do so by herself, but her roots constrain her. When Kujou has a puzzled expression, Felice snapped her fingers and Kujou's soul became visible. Felice explains that the soul or the spiritual core defines one's existence. Her soul in particular was artificially made to be a demon lord. Therefore there are many restrictions and not being able to commit suicide is one of them. That's why she needed Kujou to kill her. However, Kujou protests that he cannot fight. Felice assures her that she will personally train her to the level he could actually kill her. She leads him to a place where there is a stone wall and a door embedded in it. Kujou thought that they came to a dead end. With sheer magic, Felice produces a key and magically opens the locked door. She then ushers Kujou to her castle. Soon they enter a dreary place brightly lit by the glitter of treasures and gold spread everywhere. Kujou looks in amazement at the high quality of weapons that are also included in the treasure. Felice explains to him that this is her treasury, where all the treasures from 3,000 worlds that she has destroyed are placed. She is confident that Kujou will be able to find anything he needs in this place. Felice has the intention to use all the weapons to train him. She presents him with a growth acceleration ring, an evil eye necklace, and an elixir that tastes like death. Kujou was amazed to see how crude Felice was. He then wanders around the wide place to see all the treasures in there. He then spots a sword. It was rather plain when compared to other treasures lying around. When he is about to touch it, Felice warns him not to. She explains that it's the ancient branch of Calamity Levenkin, a living demonic sword. A crystallization of evil that devours the soul itself, even though she has used it only 3 times. Felice tells him that since he is very weak, he would be killed instantly by that living sword if he touched it. She completely shocks him by assuring him that he will be able to hold it in the coming 300,000 years, but to Kujou's relief, Felice says that according to his world's time, it will take 3 years. She goes to great lengths by saying that even if he goes insane, she would bring his senses back. Even if he died, she would bring him back to life. Kujou was worried about that. However, Felice exclaimed that she didn't have much time left with a sad face. Kujou also felt sympathy for Felice's situation. Felice tells him that his training will start the next day. As he would be tired, she also planned a welcome party for Kujou there, and so Kujou's life in another world began. Kujou wondered what kind of harsh training awaited him. He was worried about whether he would be able to keep up with the training or not, but all those worries are needless, because she didn't make him do the hard stuff. His first task was to walk on the white line without veering off it. Another example is eating food with his left hand, or holding stuff without using his pinky fingers. Those were the trivial things he had to do which slightly deviated from his normal routine. According to Felice, humans don't move their bodies in the way they want. First one needs to build up the body to redirect 100% of their will back into your body. Felice was determined to make sure that Kujou knew how to use his body properly. After 50 years of rigorous training, Kujou is able to move his body on his own will. Then he begins to do more strenuous activities like running and swinging. After 100 years, his body is naturally conditioned. But the goal was not to train it, but to control his body exactly as he had imagined to be. After around 1,000 years, some training in magic was given to Kujou. However, it was extremely difficult to develop the magical power needed to use magic. It took another 10,000 years before Kujou could use magic properly. After 20,000 years, finally, he was able to fight off using both magic and swordsmanship. Kujou spent his day fighting the demons created by Felice. Kujou narrates that day by day his training intensified and the only form of entertainment he had was talking to Felice. He used to tell stories from Manga to Felice, who really enjoyed listening to them. Felice especially liked Baki manga and wanted to hear more stories like that. Kujou decided to tell her the story, Beastars. It was a story which took place in school full of beasts. Felice was thrilled to hear that. Not only did he tell her about his school, his home, and his boring, drama-free routine life, but Felice used to listen to them with great interest. One day, when he was telling her a story about his pet cat, about how much mess it used to make, the cat always acted like a queen which took it for granted, the care it was given, but even so it was his precious family. Felice replied that a cat is such a bundle of miracles, and she felt amazed to see such a cute creature always waiting for Kujou. Suddenly Kujou gave a weird look at Felice and she inquired about it. He immediately says that he sometimes wonders that Felice is just like his cat. Felice became embarrassed and asked whether he was considering her as a family, or he was complimenting her as cute. Kujou also felt embarrassed. He explains that her air of greatness is quite similar to it. However, Felice didn't like the answer, so they had a little tussle about it. Kujou was upset with the weird things Felice had said. That's when he noticed the dead bodies at the room. He looked at them, which had a spear embedded in its body. He turned and saw Felice deeply thinking. He thought about the words of Felice about how she destroyed every lives. But the girl in front of him looks like just an ordinary girl to him. So he asks Felice why she destroyed those worlds. Felice was shocked to hear the unexpected question. She says that because she was created like a world-destroying demon lord. Kujou didn't understand what she meant by that. She explains that the Felice he is speaking to right now is like a glitch that happened to pop up after it had done its job. By the time she attained self-awareness, everything was already destroyed. So Kujou innocently blames Felice's creator who made her like this. However, Felice is not that easily convinced. She inquired whether Kujou believed her to be innocent in front of all those corpses buried in that wasteland. Kujou didn't have any words to counter that. Kujou inquired whether she wanted to die to make up for her sins. However, Felice laughed it off. She corrects him that she is the demon lord and no matter how she appears nice to him. She exclaimed that even if she attained self-awareness, her true nature is the same. She mentioned it like as a joke while drinking. The pain and joy of others is irrelevant to her. But Kujou could say that she was lying. Felice didn't mind Kujou finding out her real motive. She complimented Kujou that he was too kind. Felice also didn't know whether it was true or not. But she complains that now she is tired of this eternal prison. Kujou felt sympathy for her. She then asked him to get some rest as the next day is the actual combat training. Kujou watches her leave dejectedly, feeling completely sorry for her, because he doesn't know for how long she has been stuck in this wasteland. He thinks that only if he could free Felice from her fate, as a demon king who only lives for destruction, maybe she should be able to live like a normal human being. Kujou could see that Felice dreamed of living a normal human life, just like that in his stories. He wanted Felice to live a peaceful life together with her favorite cat, reading her favorite manga and drinking her favorite drink. He really wonders if he could avoid killing her. He pondered about a way to be together with her. 30,000 years have passed in that world. Felice tells him that it's about time. But Kujou wondered if they really had to do that. Seeing Kujou contemplating, Felice proposed for a walk and talk. Felice tells Kujou that he might have realized that she hasn't completely broken free from the control of her roots. Her destructive drive as a demon lord still binds her soul. She continues that this temporary self will not last long anymore, as once she was swallowed by her own destructive drive. Felice is really worried that soon she will start destroying everything, including Kujou. However, the latter assures her that he doesn't mind. But Felice mentioned that she wouldn't let him do that. However, she coaxes him that there is no reason to hesitate, and as a result of the vigorous training he received, he must defeat the demon lord. She teases him whether Kujou has developed feelings for the demon lord. Kujou confesses that he already has. Felice was taken back by that. She exclaimed that it had been great happiness for her to spend 30,000 years with him. She says that anyone would be happy to kill her, as she just used a random summoning spell to summon Kujou. He happened to endure her training, and he just happened to spend his time together with her. She says that she is just so happy to be killed by him. Soon, she released her demonic power, which even made Kujou feel pressure. Kujou soon draws his sword and rushes towards her. Felice asked Kujou to come and kill her. Felice flew in the sky in front of Kujou. Kujou can notice her eyes transforming into something evil. Felice completely converts into a demonic beast with wings and a pair of mighty claws. Kujou now realizes the actual demon lord's destructive impulse that binds her. Felice uses her mighty claw-like hand to catch Kujou's face. Kujou could see that she is not the Felice he had always known. Felice begins to strike Kujou and pins him to the ground. But Kujou used magic on the floor and erected a huge stone pillar. He successfully managed to push her off. The Felice he knew had quite a warm smile on her face, but she didn't have that now. He created numerous magic circles and pushed her towards it. Soon it caused a huge explosion. Kujou wondered if she taught him swordsmanship, offensive magic, defensive magic, and restorative magic. She taught them all just for the sake of killing herself. However, Kujou wants Felice to live. Felice also gave him something that he never had in his life before, the joy of spending a long time with someone. Kujou says that all he has ever done is to give, give, and give. To grant her wish, he kept on doing what she wanted him to do for 30,000 years. While Felice is all charged up ready to strike him again with her power, magical circles spinning out from her fingers. Kujou bellows at the top of his lungs that for just this instance she must listen to him. Thus the battle with the demon lord, Felice, and Hero, Kujou began. After a long time, Kujou defeats her and manages to pin Felice to the ground. Felice desperately asks him to kill her. She continues that after her death, the contract that summoned Kujou here will disappear and he will be transported back to his own world. In the end, she apologizes to Kujou for dragging him into this mess. He throws the sword he had held to the ground. He then inquired why Felice was apologizing to him. Kujou roars that if she really is sorry then she must live. Felice was shocked to hear that, and wondered if Kujou really wanted her to live. She was a demon who had taken countless lives and destroyed 3,000 worlds, and wondered if Kujou still wanted her to live. Kujou says that it was not her fault, if only there was something to separate Felice from all that evil. Felice explains that if such a thing were possible she would have done it already. It was impossible even with the Levankin. Kujou was surprised to hear that. Then he got off the ground as he had got a new idea. Kujou says that if that was impossible for Felice, then he will try to do it. With this, he weaves a mighty magical circle which startled Felice. He says that if Felice is bound to her roots, then he'll break the chains that bind her, so that she can live as Felice and not as the demon lord. He vows that he will separate her ego from her soul. However, Felice tries to stop him because he is not ready for that kind of magic. As even she was unable to do that, she warns him that if he fails then his soul will vanish. However, Kujou makes a point that he did win against someone as powerful as Felice. He continues that in his world a demon lord is supposed to give half the world to anyone who cooperates with them. That's why Kujou asks Felice to give her past, her future, her sins, and her half to him. He summons the great Levankin from that stone-locked door. The demonic sword comes flying towards him. It caused numerous destruction on its way. But Kujou can feel that it is taking away his magic and life force. Kujou's negative emotion tries to reason with him that he cannot do it and it is still impossible for him to do so. It mentions that he has always given up, and that's why his life has been so boring without any drama. So it asked him to give up like always. Kujou agrees that he has been doing that all his life because he had nothing to give up. But this time he is not ready to give up on Felice. He moved forward despite the resistance and confronted his negative emotions. Kujou draws out Levankin and asks the sword to give it to him. His negative emotions disappeared and Felice's soul appeared there. It could be seen that Felice's soul is under the clutches of the chains that bind her for such a long time. Kujou vows that for a long time, she has done quite well, and now he will get Felice out of here. He strikes those chains and suddenly there is a bolt of blinding light and Kujou passes out. He regains his consciousness after hearing Felice's voice. She berates him for being so reckless. He opens his eyes and finds a black cat looking at him intently. Kujou immediately recognizes the cat as Felice. Felice affirms that and asks Kujou if she was cute. Kujou wonders why she looks like a cat. Felice says that Kujou has made her like that. Levankin has shredded her power to bits and now she cannot even maintain her human form. She says that she has lost so much, her shackles, powers, destiny, and the curse. Now she feels so much lighter. Kujou concludes that finally, he has succeeded, but Felice tells him that he is only halfway there. She says that if she hadn't helped him in the end, both would have vanished along with this world. Kujou dejectedly apologizes for being so reckless, however, she tells him that he doesn't have to feel so guilty about it. Because of what he has done she is still in this world. Felice praises him and thanks him for what he has done. Felice explains that she feels her hands tied behind her back. When Kujou gives her a puzzled look, she explains that now she is released from the curse, she doesn't know what to do next. Kujou invites her to come to his world, and then he will show her what normal life means. But he also wanted to hear her opinion. Felice laughed to see Kujou struggling like that after saying grand things like, "Give me your half." She readily complies and jumps with joy at Kujou. She exclaimed that she wanted to find out what happens next in the manga too. In the thriving country of Japan, Kujou is back with delight. He walks down airily holding a bored Felice in his hands. She comments that it was a good thing that they were able to hitch a ride on the goddess's transfer gate, and they didn't have to build their own from the very scratch. Kujou asks her how she found Japan and then decides to show her around. However, Kujou gets followed by 3 strange men who ask him whether he is a returnee from another world. They appeared there through portals. Kujou affirms and looks at those strange men cautiously. The men explain that they are from the Transferees Management Committee. One of the men presents him with an envelope and says that he has been invited to the Eugratia State Academy. The man asks him to read more details on the letter enclosed. The man warns him that Kujou doesn't have the right to decline the summon or else he has to face the consequences. The men vanish into thin air, and Felice comments that it is still early for them to enjoy a normal life. That's how they ended up at that academy. Please like and subscribe to see whether Kujou managed to save Felice, the demon lord, from the other heroes. Share your thoughts in comments and click on the notifications icon for more interesting videos like this.